I was walking away, and this lady just pulled up. She must have been like almost 50.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell the dead body story.
No, that's next week.
Everything happens to you.
I'm outside. It happens, man.
I go outside.
So this lady pulls up behind me and she's like, "Hey, yes, ma'am," because I'm on the job. You know, I was like, I thought it was a customer or something. She's like, "I just want to come over here and tell your fine ass how fine you are." Oh, well, thank you. You're a little late to the party, but she goes, I just got divorced. I'm going back into work at the post office. Well, I don't need a resume. You're still too late. Okay, baby, you have a great week.
I remember having sex or something similar to that, and women coming up and talking to me.
I want to be in your situation, but I want her to talk to me.
Yeah, it's weird how that works. It's just wasted on the married, I'm telling you.
No, it's that ring.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, he can hold down a piece. So, he must be doing something right.
But anyways, I guess we're getting the signal. We should probably start the show.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. This is Mike.
I'm Matt.
And that's J-Lo on the Wheels of Steel for production. Today we are doing part 2 of a 2-part series, if that wasn't obvious. This is all connected. It's all crazy. It's all kooky. It's talking about, we're talking about what happens with science, specifically scientists, and how it is controlled by the times around it. We're going to talk about psychotronic weaponry. We're going to talk about death of scientists and conspiracy theories. We're going to talk about the Cold War, and we're going to talk about how maybe, just maybe, your brain is being controlled right now.
Yeah, a lot of this episode today is actually anchored around the death of Tesla and Tesla's contributions. And if you got to listen to the previous episode, you found out that most innovation only gets a lot of money funded into it if it's going to generate more money for specific people, like certain assholes like JP Morgan.
Yes, or the defense industry.
One of the first people that we wanted to launch into is Dr. Delgado.
Ah, yes. Yes, there is a direct correlation or a direct line from Nikola Tesla into what can be called or determined as directed energy weapons, which played a large role in both MK Ultra and, to a degree, another psychic combat program during the Cold War known as Operation Stargate, also known as the Remote Viewing Program. Dr. Delgado, specifically, he was someone who realized that these mind control shenanigans could be done technologically, and that could be done with failsafe because it was the most reliable way to do it.
Essentially, remote control electronic stimulation.
Yes.
What do they call them? It's not a sanitarium anymore.
An asylum?
Yeah, or no. I think even that.
They just call it the hospital.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A facility.
Yes, the facility.
Yes.
So they used to do this great
An institute.
Yeah. Well, that's code name for bullshit.
Yeah. That could be anything.
Yeah. They used to do
Bullshit's a code name for anything else.
exactly. The electronic stimulation has its roots in the treatment of people with schizophrenia and so on and so forth, where they thought that they could put them through electroshock therapy.
Yeah.
And
various mental health issues, psychic driving, things like that.
This stuff, that kind of treatment went on up into the 80s. My father-in-law actually used to help administer that in the
no
place.
shit.
Yeah.
Huh.
And he said, I don't want to do this anymore. This doesn't look right. It does work on some stuff. It can reset people's cognitive ability and their frontal lobe, which is
Depression, things like
yeah.
that.
And there's some proof that it works, but they also aren't terribly sure how it works.
It's quite barbaric.
I mean, it's a range of things from depression to even PTSD, and anyone that suffers any kind of terrible calamity like that,
Yeah.
I mean, they can do something for you.
I still consider it a step up from lobotomies, but that's just my own personal take on it.
Full rectal lobotomy.
Well, that's where most brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your head out of your ass. Anyways, so Dr. Delgado took this concept and ran with it, right? He took this remote control technology and this
Receiver chips.
yeah, and this stimuli treatment therapy, and he said we can put them together, and with this we can build perfect soldiers that will always obey orders in wartime, and in peacetime I can get any lady I want.
It's like in the Dr. Moreau movie and books, you know, it's like the fire that burns inside. They have the little control thing and he presses it and the chips electrocute the beasts from inside.
Oh,
you know what I'm
yeah. I
talking
forgot about that.
It's just like that.
Marlon Brando, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the weird little guy that's super creepy and lives in my nightmares.
If I need to come and tell you something. No, every time I think of Marlon Brando, I just like
my daughter is half cat. Now deliver 5,000 Big Macs to my private island.
You might be thinking, oh man, that's bullshit. Well, to prove how effective his work was, he installed one of these things into a bull with its balls still attached. And then they ruthlessly pummeled the shit out of it with a boxer, the balls with a boxer to agitate this bull. And Dr. Delgado, they put this chip in the brain of a bull and then they agitated the shit out of the bull. And then Dr. Delgado, to prove the reliability of the chip system himself, went out there and took a charge from the bull and they initiated the charge in the brain feet before it was going to collapse into him. And he stopped nearly on a dime, proving that his chip worked. I'm not even sure, man. What was that, like the 50s?
I believe so, yeah.
Maybe it might have been later because the microchip,
50s, 60s.
the microchip came out much later. Scientists like this were getting funding from governments around the world, at least the superpowers, because they thought, man, if we can just come up with the next new crazy idea, we'll be able to get a leg up on everybody else. And so you start hearing stuff about this concept of machines fighting the war for you. And even Tesla warned that there was going to be flying devices, naval devices that were unmanned, that were operated by remote control that could conduct war for humans. And this was back before the start of World War I. And they took these concepts and started pushing them forward. And all the money that the two greatest superpowers in the world made, maybe, what would you say, like half the goddamn defense or half the GDP was probably spent on defense and giving away money to anyone they thought could improve. Last episode about JP Morgan. Did you know that if
What is he talking about?
the Entente had
boring.
folded, then Chase Bank,
What am I gonna have for lunch today? Let's see. Yesterday I had nothing, so today.
and that's why
Michael!
Oh,
Michael!
huh? Is that me?
Kill your family and your friends.
No, I love those people.
Do it.
No.
It will open the cosmic gate.
Cosmic Gate?
Go to the library. Do your taxes.
This is a bit of a mixed message.
Listen to this football game.
that would have meant that Germany won and the banks would have defaulted here in the U.S. as well. Mike,
Huh?
you okay?
The what? Yeah, I'm fine.
Your eyes rolled in the back of your head. It was
Yeah, no, it's yeah, you were talking about JP Morgan.
yeah,
Troll knows.
yeah.
We know. Yeah.
Okay, so we
Okay.
can move on to the next one now that I got that out of the way.
Right. So, yes, man, like we said, if you thought Tesla got it bad back in the day, well, like we were saying, time dictates what happens with technology. And during the Cold War, man, that was a hell of a time for technology. Matter of fact, I can give you a perfect example of what was going on with most of these inventors who were very much kind of almost in the same field as Tesla. A lot of them were working for a company known as GEC Marconi. A lot of them were being contracted out to the SDI initiative, as we mentioned earlier, the Star Wars initiative, the Strategic Defense Initiative, as it was also known. Working for GEC Marconi, GEC, also known as General Electric Company, not that one, apparently, and Marconi, who we obviously know was a rival of Nikola Tesla's and can actually be factually traced back to becoming partners with Edison in 1903. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, actually, Marconi got the Nobel Prize in 1904
for a bunch of shit that Tesla was supposed to have come up with.
Tesla kind of let it roll off his back, but he was still pretty pissed off about it. It's
as one would be.
It's like, oh, it's kind of like when Beck got the Grammy, but Kanye went up there and was like, this needs to go somewhere else. Like that.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Because I love Beck.
Yeah.
I would say he's the Tesla of music.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah. And like Kanye was Edison handing it over to whoever it was supposed to be.
I mean, that's a different kinds of crazies, apples and oranges competition right there. Up until the late Cold War, we had a lot of these scientists were being treated very badly as opposed to Tesla. These guys were being mysteriously offed, as in, oh, he fell down an elevator shaft and landed on a bunch of bullets.
You mean they had a little bit of Italian flair for the dramatic?
You could say that. You could almost say this was a bit like a spy movie, as most people would accredit it. Here's an article from the London AP Wire, 1987, when this whole rigmarole was first noticed by the news and media at large. On March 30th, scientist David Sands climbed into his car, the trunk packed with tanks of gasoline, and drove into the front of a vacant restaurant. He died in a fireball that incinerated him almost beyond recognition, the fifth British scientist involved in security-related research to die in mysterious circumstances since August. A sixth scientist has been missing since January. Together, the cases add up to either a series of bizarre coincidences or to a cloak and dagger conspiracy. See, they even said it in the article. But even those who suspect a conspiracy don't know where to begin looking for answers, for the facts that link the tragedies are disparate and inconclusive. The government agrees. It's odd that all were computer scientists working in the defense field, but has rejected calls for an inquiry. All the deaths look like suicides, but only 2 have been ruled so officially. In no case has a convincing motive for suicide been made known. 3 of the scientists work for Marconi, an electronics subsidiary of industrial giant General Electric Co., a leading defense contractor, which is not related to the American General Electric, which I find very hard to believe if it's related to Marconi. I don't know. It just seems a little bit of a stretch, but whatever. Editorializing. According to the Financial Times, the 3, along with the missing man, all were concerned with advanced computer software and signal processing, a fast-moving scientific area vitally important both in the military arena and in commercial applications. Keep in mind, this is a 1987 article as well. The first death was reported on August 5th when Vimal Dajibal, 24, was found in the gorge below Clifton Bridge near Bristol. Marconi officials say he worked for Marconi Underwater Systems at Watford, near London, as a junior software engineer checking torpedo guidance systems. It is not known why he traveled to Bristol, 105 miles west of London. On October 28th, Ashad Sharif, a computer systems analyst working for another Marconi unit near London, was found strangled in a parked car near Bristol. The inquest found he had tied a rope to a tree, looped the other end around his neck, and drove off in a car at high speed. God, that is fucking gruesome. A tape recording found in his car satisfied coroner Donald Hawkins that it was a suicide. But again, the question was, why Bristol? Hawkins suggested police look for a link with the first death, observing, as James Bond would say, this is past coincidence. Police say they found no link. Sharif, 26, had worked for the same company as Dajibal in early 1986, but at a different factory and not on underwater research, says Marconi spokesman Abel Haddon. On January 8th, Avtar Singh Gita, 26, vanished. A researcher at Loughborough University's electronics department, he was finishing his doctorate in acoustics technology and was engaged on an unclassified research contract placed by the Ministry of Defense, according to a ministry spokesman who insisted on anonymity. Singh Gita was last seen testing acoustic equipment at a reservoir near Loughborough. He vanished 2 days before his wedding anniversary and had already bought his wife a gift. Marconi says Singh Gita and Dajibal were, quote-unquote, nodding acquaintances while living in the same faculty residence at Loughborough in 1979. Britain, whose nuclear arsenal is submarine-based, is a world leader in undersea warfare technology. Loughborough, in northern England, is a major research center in the field. On January 4th, computer design expert Richard Pugh was found dead at his home of East London. On February 22nd, Peter Peepel, 46, a lecturer at the Royal Military College of Science at Shrivenham near Swindon, fucking English names, died lying under his car with the engine running and garage doors shut. And the picture they show in the news is him lying under his car with his face right under the exhaust. So it's very
Weird.
yeah, odd.
That's not where the engine is.
The Defense Ministry says that Peepel was working on a non-classified study of Soviet advances in beryllium metallurgy. Beryllium is widely used in atomic reactors. Sands, the most recent scientist to die, was a researcher for ESIMS, a Marconi sister company where the Defense Ministry says he was working on a tender for an air defense systems contract. There is no clue to who put the gasoline tanks in his car before he went on his fateful ride in Basingstoke, 50 miles west of London. Jesus, that's one way to put it.
Because, you know, when I go out, I put as many gas cans as I can.
Yeah, all the gasoline in your trunk, like people do.
Yeah.
After Sands' death, opposition lawmaker and defense specialist John Cartwright wrote to Defense Procurement Minister Lord Trefgarne, Jesus, what a British name, saying, I do not wish to be accused of inventing plots more suited to a TV thriller than real life, but I think the circumstances of these 4 cases stretch the possibility of mere coincidence too far. You think? Trefgarne wrote back, I agree that it is odd that all were computer scientists working in the defense field, but there, any relationship stops. I do not see that a special inquiry, such as you suggest, is either desirable or necessary at this time. Probably because it would open up a can of worms. I'm thinking Marconi's Haddon insists that there is nothing to suggest the deaths are more than coincidence. All fucking 25 of them in total. We employ 35,000 people in 18 separate sister companies, he told the AP. These individuals were working on separate programs for separate companies at separate locations. And this includes scientists not only throughout the UK, but Italy, Germany, Sweden, etc. I'll also say that oftentimes, if the KGB, specifically the UK, you hear this more with them, and the CIA, but more the UK than anyone else, they like to set up deaths as death by sexual misadventure. I think I know we don't all remember the incident, but there was one a few years back where they found a gentleman who was a mathematician for MI6 stuck inside of a duffel bag inside of his own bathtub in his own apartment with the heat turned all the way up. And
some like it hot, Mike. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, some like it balmy, I guess.
There's nothing suspicious about that at all, Mike.
Right, nothing. They actually had a bunch of BBC recreations of like people trying to get into bags, and they're like, I can't do it.
So
just over and over trying to get in. Or there's also the popular
duffel bag challenge where you climb into a duffel bag because you're a fucking idiot.
I do believe that was a popular meme at the time. There's also the very popular method of the
autoerotic asphyxiation.
Yeah, with the orange in the mouth. Yeah. Always. Yeah, that's a sign that they use a lot too.
It's to prevent scurvy.
Yeah. You don't want your dead MPs or scientists jumping up off their closet rack after they've been hung to death in what looks like a quote-unquote sexual misadventure. The Brits love that one for some reason. I don't know why. This is all just to show that 25 plus scientists, this is not just accident. That's way beyond any kind of freak occurrence, obviously.
Do I dare say we're on the verge of the C word?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's even a Wikipedia page that says GEC Marconi death conspiracy theory, which, and if Wikipedia has a page on it, it must be true.
Yeah.
So, Wicca reality.
It's death by the numbers, man. I mean,
yeah. Oh, most definitely. This just shows that back in the day, all they had to do was discredit this one man. But you have all these brilliant scientists working on like all these various, well, in this case, all of this was under the umbrella of the Strategic Defense Initiative one way or another, and had to do with the Cold War. So they're just bumping these fuckers off left and right.
You're onto something there. It's one thing to discredit somebody, make them sound like a kook, crank, or iconoclast. Science is good and right, and we love our empiricism because, it's a self-policing industry, right? Like you can, someone can go back out and test what you found and do it themselves, right?
Yeah.
So
That's the underlying, fundamental of the scientific method.
So just because their science is good and these guys know what they know, you got to get the
It's like
the hacksaw across the neck.
One of the best metaphors I could liken it to is, you guys know who H.H. Holmes is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, like when he was building his murder hotel, he would have all these different engineers come in and they'd build certain parts of the house and he'd be like, you're fired, get the fuck out of here. And he'd bring new people in. No one questioned after too much time, like, why am I building a greased up chute to send fucking naked women down or whatever into your weird little basement?
This is the
lab.
weirdest laundry chute I've ever made.
Exactly. It's, you one hand washes the other, or, don't let your left hand know what your right is doing. Something like that. One of those phrases about a hand and another hand.
In the bush.
Yeah. Worth two in the bird.
Yeah.
Freedom is a two-edged sword. We also mentioned that there is a direct line from Tesla regarding direct energy weapons that feeds into this Cold War paranoia and this mixture of, this was the same time that MK Ultra and sort of overlap with Project Stargate and the
Paperclip is finally
well, you had
been
Paperclip
fulfilled.
first. Yeah. Paperclip with the brain drain, all the fucking scientists disappearing. And post World War II, they're filtering into the US and the USSR.
So for those that don't know, Project Paperclip was essentially one team got dissolved on planet Earth. And so now we get their best players.
Yeah.
UK, America, and Russia all decided, hey, we're going to take the best.
It was a draft.
Yeah, it was a nice draft, a science draft. We got von Braun and a couple of other Nazis.
And he built Disney.
And he built Disney. That's right. No, he's the godfather of NASA.
On the good foot.
Yeah.
My impression of Werner von Braun getting in the hot tub. Watch me now. But yeah, this led into World War II. After we picked up all these scientists, after World War II, America launched pretty much almost immediately right into MK Ultra. And even though, years later we would have Project Stargate with the remote viewing and things like that, we come to find out, well, the government and the fucking dark, scary, fucking cigarette smoking men who were in charge of these programs would come to find out that technology was much more reliable than pumping someone full of drugs and just sending them out there or trying to program them mentally. And that's where we touched on with Dr. Delgado earlier. A microchip and a receiver or a transceiver is much more reliable than any sort of mental programming,
or
basically.
Hallucinogen or or like your.
That's wildly unpredictable.
The concept of the Manchurian Candidate. Yeah, you can brainwash people, but to do stuff like give their life savings to their cult leader.
Yes, as they found that technology was much more reliable, this is where you also get into that falling back on the reliance of such subjects as directed energy weapons. During the quote-unquote psychic gap of the Cold War, when all this shit was kicking off, the whole reason America started MK Ultra really is because I believe the first person that they ever saw through media was a Father Manzetti that was shown. He was a Romanian priest who was shown on television post-World War II, and he was just bleary-eyed and robotic. This is what was the impetus behind America, like, oh, shit, this dude's obviously been fucking worked over in some way that we got to figure out how to fucking get that shit over here. We got to get some of that. So once they saw Father Manzetti, that was it. It was on. So they had to clear the gap. And from there, it just escalated and it was exacerbated and built up. And the next thing you know, we're putting chips in people's brains.
We've harped a lot on the remote control aspect of it, Dr. Delgado's work, but a more applicable example of some of the stuff that was improved upon by Cold Warrior scientists was stuff like your drones, both in the air and in the sea. And
remote controlled weaponry.
Like the cable guy said, I can play Mortal Kombat with my friend in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he's just dropping a fucking missile on him.
Al Gore's inventing the internet.
Yeah.
All this stuff is going on. The world's getting smaller. But yeah, with directed energy weapon and sound weaponry, is another, that's a whole crazy like side thing that we're going to get into a little bit as well.
That Havana syndrome, man.
Yeah. This gets us into the psychotronic gap. Psychotronic basically means any technology that can directly affect the brain. And from the 1960s, when all this shit was like in its prime, up until modern day, Havana syndrome, that's fairly recent. That's only like the last decade, you know?
Yeah.
And then we've got other, this is just a few examples of what can be utilized. And this is technology that more or less mimics the symptoms of schizophrenia and other mental illnesses or stuff that can make you basically question what is going on in your own mind. What is your reality? What's happening? Am I sick? What's this all about? So you've got V2K, infrasound. And infrasound, we'll try to get a clip and just throw some infrasound in here, maybe just a quick short so you can kind of get a feeling for it. Like maybe right here.
Is this the antithesis of AMSR?
No, AMSR. Well, AMSR came much later, but
Yeah, I know, but like AMSR is meant to be.
I bet they knew about it.
Well, I mean,
but
AMSR is meant to be beneficial, but ASMR? Is that what it is?
audio since yeah, I think so. Yeah, ASMR.
ASMR. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ass to
Yeah,
mouth.
or like ASMR, binaural beats, stuff like that. Infrasound that's associated with hauntings, people being assaulted by like ghosts and scary shit. It causes like your haunches to rise up and the hair on the back of your neck to stand up. What you just experienced before the booze was a little bit of infrasound. Did it make you want to pee your pants? Just a little, don't you think?
All the cool kids want to pee their pants.
That's supposed to be the sound that it's found in all these supposed alleged haunted houses that makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck, your haunches rise up, makes you feel like there's another presence in the room, which leads me into V2K, which is another technology. The first time I heard about this was when it was being used in Madison Square Garden, or no, what's the
Times Square.
Times Square, yes.
Yeah.
It was for, I want to say, either the film Paranormal, what was it called? Paranormal Activity, yes. Or some Ghost Bro show, something like that. Basically, V2K, it's a directed sound device, which could be weaponized. I mean, you have all this other shit like LRAD, like long-range acoustic devices that they use for breaking up riots, shit like that. V2K worked as how people would walk down the street, and when you pass a very specific area, it would beam like these commercials into your brains, and you could hear it inside your skull. So who's not to say that it could be weaponized? And on top of that, you have Dr. Michael Persinger, who came up with a device known as the God Helmet, which, if there's any other technology that comes close to not only mimicking the symptoms of schizophrenia as well as temporal lobe epilepsy, it's a little something he created, and maybe you've heard of, called the God Helmet, which basically beamed electromagnetic waves and energy directly into the brain of people who wore it and caused such strange effects that people swore they felt other presences in the room.
Yeah, it created the Holy Ghost feeling.
Yeah, and they saw shadow people, or there was like a third man phenomenon, just a unknown presence showing up.
Even with that God helmet, it could replicate what existed in people who have been indoctrinated in a religion. When they put MRI side by side lineup of how it affected these people,
Right.
religious and non-religious.
Yeah.
Man, it's their sister. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
And or the visionary experiences that our homeboy Tesla experienced. That's almost right there. The same thing. These temporal lobe epilepsy experiences that we were talking about earlier that have been studied and revealed to have neural pathways to quote unquote precognitive psychic abilities like spotting auras and things like that. So this is artificially manufactured psi technology to a degree. And
why go to seminary school when you could get a God helmet?
Exactly. And that leads me into the next form of technology, which is called neurotheology. Neurologists are finding more and more today that the most advanced part of the brain is the frontal lobe. That's where the pineal gland is, etc.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
where-
most evolved part.
Your decision-making skills and
Yeah.
all that come from there.
Morality, etc. And that's where you'll experience religious experiences. Encounters with God or a higher power are chemically based and neurologically based in that part of the brain.
Research of serial killers' brains, they found that it's kind of dull and blunted. There's no wrinkles
Yeah.
in the front, or less wrinkles in the front.
Or they've usually had some serious damage to
Yeah.
the head, like a
it-
head injury of some kind.
It ceases to develop at some certain point. So
Hence the morality
yeah.
parts and stuff like that.
the rest of the brain looks like you would imagine a brain to look like, but that is all smoothed out like it's been bit shined.
Yeah, it
or
looks
something.
more it looks more delicious in comparison to the rest of the brain. Like if I was a zombie and I had to choose, I'd probably go for that part. Neurotheology can also be connected to neuroprosthesis, which is the technology which allows a lot of our soldiers come home who have lost limbs. This allows them to create a artificial connection to a limb, like a robotic hand, for example.
Yeah, or the coral graph onto the skull
Yes.
to control a computer mouse or type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, it's like anything, it takes practice. You know what I mean? Like if you're right-handed, try writing with your left hand. Imagine that
Right.
with your brain. Like it's the first time you've ever wrote
Oh,
with
yeah.
your brain.
I mean,
So,
there is a learning curve, yeah. But I mean, I've also seen this applied to toys.
Yeah.
There's a Star Wars Force toy that combines your move the ball up and down using the Force, quote unquote, neurological waves through a headset that basically beams into the little toy machine and moves this ball up and down. That's kind of like the whole practice scene from when he's trying to chop the balls in half.
the forks are strong in this restaurant.
Basically, what we're getting towards is that just this alone, these are just examples of technology that exists outside of, say, a military or government institution. I believe you said it was in the 1980s we were 20 years apart. Okay, yeah. So I believe the gap is probably at about 40 at this point between consumer electronic technology and what the military, industrial, whatever, blah, 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 you want to add in there, complex has their hands on.
Military industrial going to give me a complex.
Yeah. Well, maybe they are. Maybe that's what they're doing
Yeah.
right now. See, a lot of this also comes back into what was once. Okay. I got to say, I'm editorializing here a bit, but this is one of the stupidest conspiracy theories of the late 70s, 80s called Project Bluebeam.
Boo.
Yeah, but it seems to be making a resurgence. This is mostly due to the government shooting down, quote unquote, UAPs, UFOs, whatever. They're being very coy about it. But supposedly, everyone's bringing this. There's a popular resurgence in this particular conspiracy theory because that's the first key. The governments of the world are going to fake a large scale alien invasion, as well as within the first step of the 3 to 4 steps of Project Bluebeam, they're going to sorry, go ahead.
So as to the alien invasion, you got to keep in mind, man, the last enemy aircraft that we're aware of that flew over American soil of any kind, whether it be terrestrial or not.
Pearl Harbor.
No, man. 1942, the Aleutian Islands campaign for the Japanese, and then they started the hot air firebomb balloons that picked up on the trade winds to fly in. They wanted to put all the personnel on the West Coast working the forest fires in California, Oregon, and Washington, and it failed miserably. But American airspace has,
On the behalf of America or on the behalf of Japan?
the Japanese sent firebomb balloons
Yeah.
on the trade winds.
But it
to-
didn't work.
No.
Okay.
One.
Yeah, I feel like
landed
I
it,
would have heard
yeah.
about it, I guess.
Yeah. It wasn't very successful, but you have to keep in mind since the
I heard about something similar like this too with biological warfare, like fleas or ticks or something like that as well.
Oh man, they've tried all kinds of stuff. Company 409, I don't know what it is. But
Unit 731.
yeah,
Yeah.
they never got close to doing anything to Americans on American soil.
Oh, good.
But you have to keep in mind American airspace has been relatively unmolested since 1942.
That's why I think people are freaking the fuck out about,
So like
minor shit.
So like think of how in in the UK.
A good friend told me this recently. He's like, yeah, I don't think a fucking fighter pilot has had even a chance to shoot anything down over American soil for fucking ever. So, yeah.
Think of it like in the UK, rabies isn't really an issue over there. So when 28 Days Later came out,
Because they got rid of the guns.
right?
Got that gun fever.
If rabies isn't really an issue over there, then the rabid zombie is a very different concept to them and maybe a little bit more terrifying because we have some concept of it, some understanding of rabies and like a rabid human being. Holy shit.
Yeah.
But whatever. We've seen a rabid dog before, but that's...
Have you ever seen a rabid dog in the rain?
Well, it sounds like a country song, Mike.
Kind of does, doesn't it? I'm sorry to spin you off there. It just, I don't know. I know they have hydrophobia. It's got to freak them the fuck out. Sorry, go on with the chlorophyll.
Draw me off sides. Stuff like that, man. A little bit of context goes a long way in this instance, in this Project Bluebeam. And granted, I'm probably in a good situation with the rest of you guys in agreement where we're probably going to pick this fucking thing apart, right?
Oh, yeah. And telecommunications now. I was about to say another heavy first stage of Project Bluebeam involves the holographic projection of various religious symbols like Jesus, Krishna, Allah, Buddha, etc. over the skies in their respective population centers.
There were so many arms and they were busy as Vishnu.
Yeah. Which, hologram technology is nowhere close to that. You have to have a medium.
A substrate.
Yeah, Tupac and all these other people who performed holographically, Roy Orbison, etc. That's all Pepper's Ghost, and that's like a 200-year-old method that's been around forever. That's nothing new. Also, telecommunications are at such a fucking rate that if somebody gets on the internet and is like, "Did you guys hear that Vishnu appeared over India?" And they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's weird because Jesus appeared over America," and everyone's be like, "This is fucking weird." Yeah. What? Okay, well, let's compare notes. What did your guys say? Oh, you know, the same old shit. And just fucking, there's gonna, take care of the environment, blah, 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 whatever.
Why is everybody being such a dick at fucking space dollars? I'm just trying to write my script.
Oh, yeah, and one world currency.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that's another part of it.
Clearly, that didn't happen.
Right.
And I think we can all agree that this is one of those conspiracies that is a product of the time.
Well, yeah, see, and these are the most definite bullshit parts. But I think it's around step 2 or 3 where we get into utilizing the technologies, very much like we mentioned earlier, to more or less beam thoughts or control the thoughts, for lack of a better word, of the mass populace. Now, that's where I also disagree with the plan. Mass populace, you're thinking too fucking much, but the right person in the right place.
Yeah.
You get some senator who fucking thinks like, Jesus talked to me directly. Oh, and he said I should change the barbecue flavor of whatever. And fucking.
Once they get to Senator Silas Poe Hankey, man, it's done. It's over.
The Dixiecrats.
Yeah.
They're going to take over. Whatever that even means anymore.
They didn't have to go that route because all they have to do is go from broad to specific, right? If you want to get the right people, it's called targeted advertising.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it.
That brings me into another subject of targeted individuals. Like I said, you only have to get to the right person at the right place. But at the same time, the whole idea of gang stalking and targeted individuals, I get that a lot of it, man, I think it stems from mental illness. And it's weird because I think mental illness has taken a turn that, man, well, definitely that.
A little bit.
And you can't fault these people for being sick. But at the same time, it seems that there's been a mass turn and influx of just people who mental illness has been built out of narcissism and just me, I'm important. Why am I the one?
No, I think, man, you said it to me when I was a teenager. You said, everyone's in their own goddamn movie and they're all the fucking star.
Yeah.
And you need to just, dude, take a step back. Yeah. They're people too. Like, you need to just chill the fuck out. You're not in an action movie. You're not in this or that.
Yeah. Stop and ask yourself, do I really need to send this email? Is this YouTube comment going to make the world a better place?
Probably not.
Yeah. Just.
He called the poo shit.
Oh, man. Next thing you know, you got the goddamn Great Chicago Fire in 1906.
It's
Blame more.
blame on.
I'm sick in my body from all the truth coming out of here today. Definitely, narcissism has affected mental illness and vice versa. And man, I don't know. It's like we said, it's the right person in the right place. If they're affected to a certain degree, made to like think or act a certain way,
Yeah.
one person with their finger on the button is all it takes.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is the nuclear football. But like,
Yeah.
the guy also like, so when you go to work for a government agency, man, all the boys come and investigate you by asking stuff about you to your neighbors, to your current job, your parents, your grandparents, ex-girlfriends,
Get
all
the
that
medical
stuff.
records.
Yep. They go into a deep dive.
Yeah.
When our dad went to go work in the missile silos in Colorado, they got lots of questions. They're like, you got like gambling debts or anything like
Was
that?
he the Zodiac killer?
Maybe.
Yeah.
The government does enough research on you to hire the right people, but now just because they did their due diligence and they may be watching you too, but your fucking cell phone is always listening.
Yeah.
It's always
And
trying to
here's
feed
where
you.
we get another direct line to Tesla, because like we said, technology has fucking advanced exponentially since that time, and it continues to do so.
Yeah. And it's all based on his concept of moving things on radio waves / microwave.
Yep.
You're just moving up the chain.
And all this, like, we are so, that same narcissism, I think, is what also breeds this voluntary surrender of your information. Like we've said before, you're building your fake persona, your simulacra.
You
of a
only
perfect
show the
life.
good stuff
Right.
online. You never show. No one's ever like, hey man, I got fired today because I kept coming to work drunk.
Yeah.
No one ever puts that,
I have a disease.
Yeah. But like,
The coolest disease.
yeah.
It's how open you want to be. And,
Yeah.
the internet is a fucking hodgepodge because you have so much negativity and just, like,
There's
hey, expletive deleted. Why are you such an expletive deleted? If I see you on the streets, I'm going to put my expletive deleted in your expletive deleted.
there's an ad on the radio right now about if you're feeling like something's not right, something is totally wrong, reach out to a parent or an online friend. I'm like, no. Reach out. Yeah, they're like, reach out to a family member. Absolutely. Yeah. If you
that's
can't
fine.
trust family, who can you trust? But are you just going to jump the fucking line from fucking, that guy I've known for fucking 15 years and bailed me out when I was.
Stranger on the internet who's going to call me a
Yeah.
for opening up and trying to say I have a problem.
Yeah. Like, hey, Bill, thanks for getting me out of jail that night and keeping it a secret from my wife.
Yeah.
But I can't come to you with this.
Yeah.
I got to go to the internet to have them solve my problem for
Well,
me.
and see, man, at the same time, the technological idea sphere that we live in, it also not only breeds narcissism, I think, but it also breeds isolation. And that's a big it further advances these sort of problems to where people feel like they can't talk to people. It's separating us, obviously. I know people are always like, social media brings us
Yeah.
apart, not together. It's like, well, fucking duh. But I mean, we don't go out to the park anymore. We don't interact with our reality directly. People have said for years, the map is not the territory, the menu is not the meal. Obviously, and if you come to a certain level of knowledge, you'll figure that out. But at the same time, you're completely replacing your reality with a whole new fake fucking snow globe reality of not only your own creation, but all the assholes who would just as soon call you a on the internet for trying to open up and talk about how you feel inside.
So, case in point, you want an echo chamber? You want port for your shit? Case in point, Vladimir Putin. Everybody around him is a fucking yes man, and they've all been skimming. They're all crooked. And now they're all reaping the benefits of them lying to each other because they believe the lie. They wanted to believe so bad. And now when reality check smacks them in the face, they can't even do it. They were supposed to be the number 2 military in the world, and they're getting their asses handed to them.
We're number 1, right?
Fuck yeah, we're number 1.
Okay, cool. I was just checking.
Yeah. We're number 1, but I mean, man, the Ukrainians, they underestimated them. They thought it was going to be a 3-day campaign. We just passed a year
Amen.
in February.
I hate to throw out another T-shirt slogan, but sometimes it ain't the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And
Goddamn right.
The Ukrainians, man, I think they have a history of having a pretty big fight in the dog selves.
They're whooping that ass.
No,
hey, they're doing something the Americans never did. They're going out there and whooping that ass.
Yeah.
They're doing something we never did.
Yeah, fucking hands on. And I see what you're saying, and you know, I can put that on a bit of a, you're speaking macro scale, like global politics. I can see that on a micro scale as well. How we mentioned that people build these false realities and like what they only want to show you online through social media. I watch a lot of true crime shit and stuff like that. And man, there's so many occasions I've seen where somebody's like perfect little fucking utopia. Chris Watts, that's the most famous example of a family annihilator. But the dude, fucking like his wife posted all this shit. They had like this perfect little shit built up, fake life on social media. And then as soon as everything comes crumbling down, fucking they kill their family. And that's not just him. I've seen that with plenty of other situations. Basically what we're trying to get across is the technologies that Tesla developed and were flowered into bigger and better things during the Cold War that were meant to be beneficial to all mankind have been privatized and turned onto the consumer as a weapon and a tool. Yes.
For both sides.
And these could be weaponized beyond what we even comprehend right now. For all you know, at this exact second, your thoughts may very well not be your own. And that is the scariest thought that anyone can think of at the moment.
We are so happy that you stayed through this.
Psychic invasion.
We're so happy that you stayed here with us through this whole thing, and we're going to be back next season bigger and better.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed what we made. We had so much fun making it. Can't wait to come back bigger and better. We hope to have a little bit more time, resources, just to give you the best show we can. Mwah.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, J-Lo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, listener.
Thank you, you beautiful, beautiful.
God, you're fucking hot.
So yeah, thanks for coming along with us on this ride. We'll see you next time, I hope. Wink, wink. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
That's J-Lo on the Wheels of Steel for production. And this has been the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconic.